And welcome to our Game On Expert Interviews. I am Jean Berry. I'm your Game Inventor Mentor, and I bring you my favorite, best resources on the planet. And I'm sure that Lois loves being called resource, but I'm thrilled to have Lois here today. And I'm going to read you her bio because I'm like, I could just go off and say all the reasons that I love you, Lois. So here we go. After a 30-year business career, Lois chose to pursue energy healing field. And in 2005, after a debilitating chronic illness, obtained several Reiki Master designations. I don't know how to pronounce this. Usui, is that it? Angelic-Spiritual designations in Reiki. Crystal Resonance Therapy certification, advanced meditative studies in Primus healing techniques, and advanced angel empowerment practitioner certification. Wow. See, I didn't even know you had all those things either. She never talks about them. In 2012, on a spiritual trek to Alaska, she was introduced to her soul path of psychic art through mediumship, and the spiritual journey began. After 1,000 spirit portraits later, her journey has expanded with the creation of Spirit Coaching and the Mentorship Program. And honestly, I have been working with Lois one-on-one and in a group setting for the past 6 months or so, and it's been nothing short of magical. So welcome, Lois. I'm so happy that you're here to grace your presence in our community, because I honestly have so much fun working with you, and it's just fun. So welcome.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate all those kind words, and you've been just amazing to have, in the group and one-on-one. Just love your energy. So thank you for having me, Jean.
Oh, well, I'm glad to be here. And if you're popping on live with us now, go ahead and give us a hey, a hi. Pop in and let us know that you're here. Lois, we were talking beforehand about what are we going to talk about today? And she's like, I don't know, spirits will guide us. And so before we kind of get there, can you do a little bit of basics for our people about who you're accessing? Like, what are the spirit guides that show up for you, and who's here?
Who's here? Well, yeah, that's always an interesting question, and it sort of leads me to that. My favorite quote is, of course, never say never. And anything is possible, infinite possibilities. So when I say that, the guides come through and say, yes, we're here. We're like right here. We just need your permission, or we just need you to, call us in. And even if you don't know who they are, they will be there for you, and they are there for you. So the spirit guides always await you. So if you're sitting there waiting for them and you haven't really called them in, or made even an internal declaration, yes, they are there for you. And the spirit guides, there's many elementals, the fairy kingdom, the little elves and whoever else that runs around in the forests. And then we have the angelic realm. We have the spirit guide realm, which is I would say the majority. They tell me that the majority of the spirit guides have lived a physical life on Earth, and then they have become spirit guides through their training. So they train to become spirit guides. So if you think that you're going to get out of going to school by being in spirit, oh, that's actually not quite accurate. You will be allowed and, of course, encouraged to increase your knowledge. And there's great many, so-called universities in the sky that they train with. And then, of course, we have, the in the angelic realm, the the archangel, there's a whole structure. So, that's a whole study in itself. And then the masters, master teachers. And then, if we want to move further into the anything is possible, well, then we're going to look at the star beings and other beings or spirits that are in the vast universe, as I like to call it. So that's why when I draw, I just allow that pencil to move, and they bring through who you need at this exact moment for what you need to do and bring forth to the world, or what you need to journey on. Beautiful. So they know your soul path.
Yes, and so what I know from these kind of conversations is that if you're here live or if you're watching later, Lois is going to be channeling your message. Like, it's just going to show up with the right thing, the right words, the right feeling will show up for you. There are no mistakes. That is all coming through. And if you're here and you do have a specific question for your spirit guides, you can feel free to also ask that. Or if you have questions about how this works or anything else like that, I invite you to include that and put it in the chat here. We will find you and we will answer your questions as well. So welcome. Thank you for being here. And a few folks popping on. Deborah's here and Dr. Angie's here. Joanne, Laura, so glad you guys are here, and welcome. I'm just really happy to have you here. So Lois had mentioned that perhaps we would do a little bit of a meditation and invocation as we get together. So I will turn that over to you, Lois.
Okay, thank you, Jean. And I just want to say something. Well, as always, they want me to say something. So I will go with their guidance. When I connect with the spirits, I always do an invocation, and it's a way to honor and pay respect to spirit coming through, and that's why I do an invocation, and then I further it with a connection with a channel. And so I'm just going to invite everybody to not if you're driving, please don't do this. Just keep going, or pull over if you want to do it. So I just want to invite everybody just to be comfortable where they are and close your eyes, and I want you to imagine a beautiful blue light. It can be a medium blue to a sky blue, but this beautiful bright blue light, and it's above your head. And as you look at this with your eyes closed, you can see this blue light, and even if you don't see it, you can feel the blueness, whether you relate it to the beautiful waters of the Caribbean or the beautiful glaciers of Alaska. It is this beautiful blue, pristine light, and it shines above you. And it's like this blue spark that starts to come down on top of your head, and as soon as it hits the top of your head or the crown chakra area, it's almost like it magically just expands to your whole being. You can now feel it on your shoulders and in your fingertips. It's going down all the way through the core of your body, through your the base of your spine, your knees, and down into the feet. And just allow it for a moment just to swirl around you, this beautiful blue light. It is the blue light of peace. So when you're feeling that you need just to recenter, realign, adjust, just bring this beautiful blue light of peace into your being. And now I want you to take that beautiful blue light and just allow it to expand the space all around you, just as it has expanded your heart space, so that you know that you are loved and protected. And I want you just to now take that blue light out to your aura, all the way around you. And now you get to just allow it to be there. So you know that it's always there. And when you need it, you can just simply take a nice breath in through the nose and then release it, and it goes right back out to your aura. And now you take another breath in through the nose, gentle, doesn't have to be a huge breath, just simply breathing it in and releasing it in your normal breath work. And then when you are ready, you can open your eyes and join us.
That's really lovely. And I always find like I pull up my shoulders in, like involuntarily after that, because I have to release everything. Like, oh yeah, I've been holding on to that. Let that go. And I love this space of allowing us to just be right here, right now. Beautiful. So, okay, so that just makes me forget everything I was going to ask you, but it was kind of funny. I interviewed my daughter a few weeks ago, and someone commented to me how I actually did stay in interview mode. They were wondering how I did it because, like my heart expands when I talk to her. and they're like, how do you do that? But, you just totally shut my brain off, Lois, so I...
And that's okay. That's okay, because that's really, the point of the blue light of peace is a way to just sort of detach from all the stuff that is, frustrating and bothering you, and even if it isn't, it just helps to do this quick realignment. Lots of times with meditation, I'll have people or students or clients say, or even just friends that say, oh, meditation, I don't have time for meditation. Meditation's too long. I don't have 30 minutes, blah, blah, blah. I don't. And actually the fact of it is that even just the simple breath in, breath out, blue light in, blue light out. And whether it's a blue light, there's many different colors that we can use in meditation, and it's just simply boom. Okay, I'm back. I'm done.
Right.
I've let that go. Make room. And that's that expansion, right? Make room for all the wonderful, lovely stuff to come in.
Right. Well, and I think that this is that you are a facilitator for our guides. So when I work with you, like you can speak for my guides and be this beautiful, clear channel for them. And this blue light of peace, and it's kind of funny, I actually pulled out this paper as I was at the blue light of peace. That's exactly what I was thinking when we as we were going to get started. It was right there on my book, the blue light of peace, because it's ultimately about then training me to hear my guides better. And so this is one of the ways that you have taught me is simply calming down, clearing out the brain, letting this come down. Are there some other ways that people know that they are hearing their guides? Like, how do we know?
Yeah, that's it. Well, I guess I would like to just maybe share sort of at the very beginning. And I always considered myself, intuitive in a feminine kind of, well, all women are intuitive, that mother nurture, whatever, but this feminine intuitiveness that we have. And so throughout my life, I've made decisions, definitely with a linear type A personality, but I also believe that I also used that intuitiveness. Like, why do you do you feel like you're guided to stop right now in the vehicle, and then by doing that you have been prevented from being in an accident up ahead? Or there's all sorts of instances where people will say, oh yeah, if I hadn't lost my car keys and been searching for them for 5 minutes, I would have been out in that traffic mass, right? And those kinds of things. And that's actually a connection, whether you know it or not, to your guides, because they're they're sending you signals and information. There's lots of physical things like feathers and coins and, blah, blah, blah. And when we had the Truth and Transformation Challenge, part of it was about challenging your guides. Well, show me. I love red cardinals, birds, but we don't have them here where I live. They're in the South majority. And anyways, I just love them. And I said, I was working on this project, and I said, okay, well, show me a red cardinal. If you're who you say you are, show me this red cardinal. And I'm kind of thinking in the back of my mind, oh, well, I might have given them a little bit, too big a challenge because there's no red cardinals here, right? But I said, just show me. And the very next day, I'm on a call with a gal in Manitoba, and all of a sudden she says, oh my gosh, there's a red cardinal at my window, and he's sitting right there, like he's not moving. It's like he wants me to see him. And I'm going, oh, thank you. Okay, so I got it, right? And so, there's many ways, and, there's of course, we have all these senses, right? Am I seeing something? Am I hearing something? Am I even smelling something? Or do I just simply know, right? What is this knowing coming from? I know that I need to do this. I know that I need to walk on this path. And that's your spirit guides giving you those nudges, to get closer to your path. And for many of us, probably we never will know our spirit guides, but as we start the search, as soon as you start the question or the quest, I guess, then all of a sudden you start to get all these signs, and you can learn how to tap into that through simple meditations, through raising your vibration, because the higher you raise your vibration, the closer that spirit realm is able to come to meet you.
Okay. So all right. Yeah. So I'm curious for our viewers on a couple things. One is there a particular sign that kind of shows up for you? Like, I always know if I see owls or anything about owls, my mom is there because she collected them. She has a message for me, right? And right, butterflies, right, of course, are always my thing too. Like, I always think that there'll be butterflies, dragonflies, same kind of thing. So I'm kind of curious if type in the chat what signs like show up for you.
Yeah, and some of the signs that I get, of course, is that is burnt toast, which is kind of, I went, burnt toast. Why would I smell burnt toast? And then I remembered, oh, my mother was she baked. Well, she was good at everything. She was just amazing. And she baked this beautiful bread and, everything homemade, right? Cinnamon buns and all this. But my dad was very specific about his white bread, and she hated it when he burnt it in the toaster because it was her homemade bread. If you want to burn bread, go buy a loaf from the store, but don't burn my homemade bread. Well, then I realized, oh my gosh, I'm smelling burnt toast, but nobody's around with burnt toast. It's my mother. And so I recognize her that her spirit is close by, or she might have a message for me on something that I've been maybe trying to solve or can't figure out, and she just wants to make me pay attention, right, to what's coming. So yeah, and it can be anything, the smell.
Yeah, so Joanne's saying hummingbirds, absolutely. Hummingbirds are, I think that's a common one too. Do you see that there's a lot of common things that come through for people? Well, and this whole idea even of their spirit guides, do you see common themes and common even guides?
There is, I'm just asking the guides because of course they say no, we're all so different, and in over the 1,000 guides that I have drawn so far, Yeah, I have a few that have come before with for somebody else, but not a whole lot of repetition. Right? So what does that mean? Wow, that's a good question. So we're also individual and unique, that they know exactly what it is that you need for your journey. So that's who comes forward. Now there's a common theme. The common theme is that they are here to help us. They are here to help us. See, they know what our path is. They know what our ultimate journey is, or if you want to call it a sacred contract, you can, it doesn't matter really what you call it. It just means that they say it's that's our job. Our job, their job is to help guide us, direct us. Their job is not to tell you what you're supposed to be doing. Their job is to encourage and nudge, and sometimes they're a little bit pushy, to get you to, because of course, as physical beings, oh, gee, I think we have a bit of resistance sometimes, right? So it's like, oh, what was that about, right? Well, that's
A little
right.
resistance, yes.
Yeah. So the common theme is really, we want to help. That's our job. Let
Yeah.
us help you.
Okay, Connie says hers is a moose. Connie, I'm curious, do you see that like real moose, or is there a moose figure? Like, where do you live? I love that it's a moose. Like, that's a big old guide. That's a big sign.
Yeah, and that, but the thing is, you see, that's that infinite possibility, is that many of us relate to the animal kingdom, right? So the animal spirits, and I mean, we all have animal spirits, much like the owl, and there's a couple of different kinds of, maybe a spirit animal, and then a power animal, right? And that's kind of what I've worked with. I know there's a whole lot more out there, but um, so if you're asking a question and you're saying to your guides, well, please show me something that would confirm blah 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 blah, and she sees a moose, she knows, okay, she's on the right track. You see,
Yeah.
that's symbolism. And what I encourage people to do especially when they're starting their journey of you can psychic development, mediumship, intuitiveness, is to kind of have this symbols journal. And when you start to see a repetitive pattern, or oh, I keep finding coins, okay, so you're gonna, and now this happened. I saw this and this happened. I found a feather and now this happened. You start to develop your own personal journal of symbols and signs that you're getting from spirit. That it's really, and honestly, anything goes. I had asked a question, and I don't get a lot of feathers, right? I keep saying, but I want feathers. I want feathers. And I don't get feathers. They give me lots of other stuff, but not feathers. And then one day, I think I was thinking in my head, I was in the living room, and I was thinking in my head, and I'm going, yeah, right. I always ask for feathers and I never get one. And all of a sudden, a feather floated down. It was like it appeared through the ceiling. Now, don't ask me how, because honestly, yeah, I know how. But it just floated. It was a white feather, and it just floated right down and just sort of plunk right in front of me. And it was almost, at the same time I got the message. All right, enough of this about feathers. You got your feather, move on. Okay, thank you.
That's awesome. Connie says yes, real moose. So that's awesome. This in the epic moose, in the epic
Yeah.
animal realm. That's awesome. All right. So one of the things. So I've actually known you for a couple years now. We've had different online. I have never met you in person, but I knew that you did, spirit guide paintings and drawings, and they're gorgeous. Like, they're absolutely fabulous. You see some of these behind her head here. And we ended up having a conversation where you were talking about how you accessed your painting skill, like where that came from, because you weren't a painter. And it really, I was like, oh my God, that is the coolest thing I've ever heard. So I'm wondering if you would share a little bit about that journey of being a non-painter and a business. I said in your bio that, you went from business, but this was a big change. You weren't like dabbling in art all that time. You were like doing your thing.
Yeah, and it's interesting because when I go right back to it in high school, so we're talking a lot of years ago, in high school, I took art because I loved art. I loved sewing, and I, was trained at an early age to sew all my clothes because I was really wanting to be an individual. And so I took art, and I did one oil painting. It was a painting of Twiggy when she was, that was the in model at that time. And that's the only piece of art that I still have. For some reason, I kept it. I don't know why I kept it, because it's on this board that I painted. And so then I, went into business, doing all my other stuff. And I've always been creative, sewing and costume making and this and that and pottery and blah, 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 but never really drew. And so when I went to Alaska and was told I was a psychic artist in class, and I went, what the heck is that? I have no idea what you're talking about. And she said, well, pick up your pencil and just draw something. And of course, my first spirit guide came through. It was just a tiny little drawing. And I went, whoa, that was easy. Well, it's because I really wasn't doing it right. So I guess when I went home, you know how you're in you go to a retreat and there's all this beautiful energy, and you come home and it's like, boom, you hit the wall because there's just this really shift in energy. And it's not that it's bad energy. It's just that it's like, oh, back to reality. And I went, well, what the heck was that all about? Right? And so I had to actually go out and buy art supplies. And I would, with a friend, I sat down, and before we even had tea, I hadn't even done the meditation or anything. Her guide said, pick up that pencil and start drawing. And I just picked up the pencil, and a native guide came through, and I went, whoa, that's kind of cool. And so that's sort of where I started my journey from. But that was probably in 2012, so about eight years ago. And before that, like I say, I have a creative family, and I do have a sister in spirit that was a art teacher and a master portrait artist, but she was always giving me color wheels. Every time I saw her, she'd give me a color wheel and say, you need to get after your art. And I'd say, I'm too busy. I would always tease her and say, I got a real job. I have a business. I'm in business, and blah, 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 and whatever I was doing. So we had this ongoing kind of funny thing. But what it showed me is that if we truly are guided to something, even if you're not aware of spirit guides and all of that, if you're guided to something and it starts to make your heart sing, I always say to people, tap into what makes your heart sing, because that's a good indicator on the vibration and emotional scale of where your soul path is. Right? I don't know if that answered your question.
No, that was beautiful, and it brought up another question, which is some of these deep-seated beliefs. Which yes, I know you were joking about it, where like I have a real job, but I suspect that when it actually came to being an artist as a business and a psychic artist, and which is even weirder, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
that this probably would have brought up some issues of internal beliefs that you needed to work through. How do you work through those? How do you use your guide to work through, or guides to work through those? How does that work?
Well, I can tell you that sometimes it does. At the beginning, it really did feel like work. It really did, and I'd be lying if I said it was all easy flow, because it wasn't. Because that's that inner critic, and also all the messages. And I clearly remember working on clearing the the message that my father, bless his heart, he's in spirit, but the message that he gave, which was in those days, when I was graduating, you can't make money doing art. You have to find, that's where that real job came in, right? You have to find something that in get a business degree or do something that you can actually earn a living and put a roof over your head. And you see how those stories kind of kept going and bringing forward. And so, there's many ways of releasing that, through, and that's why I got into the energy healing too, is, part of the struggle was that I was doing all these energy healing things, which was healing my body. And then I was ready to receive the psychic art portion. But then I battled with, well, wait a minute, I've spent all this, money and time and investment in the energy healing field. And now you're telling me I'm supposed to be an artist? Like, come on, get your story straight, right? Because that was that resistance. And so the guides, they probably had to work really hard to get me to a point of acceptance of, oh, and then all of a sudden the light bulb went on. Oh, wait a minute, art is healing, right? There's healing in doing art, in painting. And even if you don't do it yourself, when you look at, find something that you love to look at, I would say to people, go to an art gallery, just be in that sort of creativity energy, find something that you really love looking at, and that's healing. So you didn't create that picture, but by looking at it, wow, you're getting healing. So, yeah.
Yeah. All right. So Angie had added some of her animal guides as well. White-tailed reindeers. Ooh, fancy. Eagles, rabbits, squirrels, various birds. So many different animals at different times come through as signs. Yes. And also shared that was an amazing story. She appreciated your story. Joanne says, I have an inner critic too, Lois, and I call her perfectionista. I have to give her other assignments so she leaves me alone.
Perfect. I love that.
Well, and I want to talk a little bit more about the art side of it, being an artist, being and being a mentor inside of this. So, yeah, I've been painting since 2005. That's when I picked up the brush again. After knowing, I actually told my mother when I was 10, I'm going to do that. I'm going to paint. That's what I told her. I didn't even remember it. She had to tell me, and picking up the brush again and knowing I'm supposed to do this. And along the way, I felt like, well, maybe I should find, a mentor, a painting teacher of some sort like that. Like we have those things in our head, like we should do that. Yet every time I found someone who was in that realm, even if they were beautiful and heartfelt or anything else, I found that painting instruction was mostly about critique and technique. And I wasn't interested in either of those. And I remember we were having a conversation about, you saying, well, I go find my techniques in the Hall of Knowledge. And I'm like, okay, I'm in. Because in the end, I view painting as a spiritual practice that, yes, yields some beautiful, cool things. And yet I see it as a spiritual practice that then, if I pick up techniques along the way, that's cool. So I love that piece of it as well. So can you talk a little bit about what you do in mentorship with artists and that kind of thing?
Yeah, and I love that. Actually, what I love it, and the guides love, is, oh my gosh, Jean has been really paying attention. That's what they're saying, and I'm going, yes, thank you very much. So the interesting part about, well, even in paint, not just painting, but it's about getting in the zone. So people kind of view it as getting in the zone, but we know that there's something deeper than getting in the zone, which is that's, painting from spirit, or painting, whether it's intuitive or whatever. And what I realized as I was developing the sort of spirit guide process, was that the guides were telling me, you need to be doing more. Not more as in more paintings, but you need to be doing more to help people to tap into their potential, tap into their artistic potential, and provide them with the tools to open up that vibration level, open up the intuitiveness. And so that's part of this whole Spirit Coaching Mentorship Program, because instead of just receiving a drawing and going home with it, okay, I have a reading, I have a drawing, but now what do I do with it? And there was many people that would, like what I used to do. I got a reading or something, and then I'd tuck it away in a drawer, and maybe a year later I might listen to it, or maybe not, or maybe it sat for 10 years. But the real push for me was that the guides were coming through to say, you need to do more, so that more people can tap into what their truest, what their true potential, and to help them understand that there's absolutely infinite possibilities and boundless ability, with the art. And the hall, when we said, well, I go to the hall of learning, I mean, that was a technique from the spiritual development in Alaska, in terms of, we do a lot in our dream state. And I mean, you could talk about the dream, correlation of all the dreams and all of that. But in our dream state, we can ask our guides to take us to the halls of learning out in the ethers and be shown something. And I have used that because, of course, I challenged my guides. Okay, prove it to me. Prove it to me that I have no idea how to do this technique. I saw this painting. I'd like to do it, but I haven't researched. I don't know how they would be able to get that on the canvas. And I have gone, asked them to take me, and then the very next day I would go sit down in front of the canvas, and all of a sudden I was doing stuff that I had never ever done before, and I went, well, that's just kind of strange. How did I know how to do that? Oh, I must have, I did the physical, I must have seen something on YouTube or something. And then I realized, no, they've brought it to me, and that's that knowingness. They brought it to me, and now I can do this technique. And maybe it wasn't done exactly the way that original painter did it, but whatever way it is, it's working.
That's awesome.
Help.
That's really fun. And you know how much I love the dream world as well, on top of all of this. So it's always a nice match. If you can do something in your dreams and do it here on this plane, it's always magical then.
Yes. And even if it's not artistic, because we're not all meant to be artists, but guess what? We all are meant to be the artist of our own life. And I love that phrase. Be the artist of your own life. Develop whatever it is that you're feeling called to, and go for it. Right? Go for it, because this is your chance. And there's reasons why. There's always reasons why you need to do that, and it's usually related to service above self, helping others, whatever it is. So I always think of it as service above self.
Right, absolutely. Dr. Angie says, love it. And Joanne says, this resonates so much with me. I draw hundreds of whimsical characters, and they are definitely channeled. Yeah, it's not anything that we planned, and we're like, okay, I'm going to do this and then I'm going to add weird ears on them, or like.
And yeah, and I love when um my husband and I have been together for probably about 17 years now. And I remember sort of early on in the relationship, we'd have coffee early in the morning because we had long days in business and the corporate world. And he'd leave the house by 5:30 and me at about 6:30. So we'd have coffee really early because that was our chance, because we'd never get home till 7 at night, right? In that whole, 12 hours a day kind of world in the business. And I remember him saying to me, so let's talk about retirement. What do you think you're going to do in retirement? And I just said to him off the cuff, and this was way before I was out of the business world, oh, I think I'm going to be an artist. And he said, excuse me, what did you just say? And I said, I don't know. I don't know why I even said that. I think I'm going to be an artist. And he goes, well, you kind of might want to start doing some art. And I went, oh, don't worry about it. It'll happen. And then I kind of, left that. And so when I look back on that, I think, oh yeah, okay. They were sending me messages, way back then. Right?
Of course, and seeing all those little breadcrumbs coming together and saying, now looking back, you're like, oh yeah, that's absolutely where that was going.
And so for anybody that is, usually there's trauma, or I don't really like using the word trauma, but yet it's true, because there are traumatic instances or things, health issues, health crisis. There's kind of usually a crisis that helps us, that all of a sudden we get this boom. Okay, now it's time to take this serious. We either have to address our health issues, and then all of a sudden we start to look towards the more. What is the more of our lives? What do we want to do with the rest of this physical journey, this particular one, right?
Well, and I could talk to you all day, and we probably would, but we do need to wrap up. And I'm just curious if there's something, some final message that you would like to share with everyone, or something that you want to leave everyone with.
Well, I think you're right. We could talk all day about this. I could talk a long time about this. I am creating a spirit guide card deck, and it's been sitting there sort of floating at the moment. And what I would like to leave people with is that if they simply send me an email, and the email is Lois Warnock at TELUS, which is TELUS.net.
Okay, got it in the chat.
And if they just simply send me an email and pick a card number from 1 to 44, and then I'm going to send you, you'll receive a message about that card, the spirit guide, and also the crystal that I've selected to resonate with it. That will also have a message, and you'll be able to use, I'll send you a picture of the crystal, and then you can use the picture of the crystal, so you don't really need the actual crystal. And in the crystal work, that the pictures will help bring that actual resonation of the crystal. And yeah, we'll do it that way, because I really love that sort of personal connection. To gift a little bit of a personal connection to some of the work that I'm doing. Okay. And then if you have questions about, spirit coaching or mentorship or anything else, or the drawing sessions and the readings, certainly you're welcome to put that in the email as well, or go onto my website, which is, again, loiswarnock.com.
And you are on Facebook also. You have a page there. Can I send that one?
I do, and it's actually under the business name, which is Soul, Divinity, Healing, and Art.
Okay, got that too. All right, so I got all those resources in the chat. Woohoo! We were very efficient today. Connect with Lois. She is very amazing, and have some fun with your guides. I'll be curious to see now what, because we've woken up all your guides today, and so clearly everyone's going to get messages. It's going to be awesome.
They're all. They just said to say, tell them we're all knocking on their doors. So open the door.
Open the door. It's all there. Beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Lois, for hanging out with me today and sharing your brilliance and spirit guides with us as well. And I look forward to our next playground.
Thank you, Jean, so much for having me. Loved it, loved it, loved it.